All right, what's popular YouTube? Another day, another demo. And today it's going to be a demo about a player from the best roster of all time, Astralis. We're going to look at es3tag today and check out how he won over NAVI, a reverse sweep. Okay, it's not the first time in history. There was the big G2 matchup that happened at DreamHack Masters. They had the reverse sweep here, 3-1 over NAVI to beat them for the ESL Pro League Season 12 championship. The first team to win 3 times. Last reigning champs, I guess, were Fnatic to do that first 2 times. But they are now the 3-time, and they did it with a new 5th. Astralis is a team that continually show you that your professional organization is dog shit at activating players. They did this with es3tag, who, listen, some of us, when we were in the Tier 2 casting, and we would be watching players like es3tag who were in the Tier 2 playing, years ago, saw that es3tag. I'm sure he could remember a time where I've casted his game and said, damn, this guy is really, really, really smart. And when we look at Astralis and their roster changes, they have Magisk. They've turned their newest pickup into their best player on their team consistently. Glaive became their most important player on the team. Magisk. es3tag here, I mean, we see the potential with Bubsky. I think they should sell Bubsky, dude. I feel like, I don't know if he's going to be, like, Zipex just got announced that he's coming back, and I want to see Bubsky on, like, a top team. And Astralis are a top team, but I want to see him, like, on a starting 5. It's a little bit weird to have him on the bench when he's so good. But anyways, we're going to be looking at this this match, and what's so sick about this, guys, es3tag is kind of like Zipex in a lot of ways. He plays slow. He's great in the clutch. He's good alone. And so he'll play a site like the inner bomb site, which is a key piece on Astralis' train. And he'll actually play it really well. And we'll see on the CT side in this matchup, this is where he shined the most, okay? So let's just recap here for, since they've brought in the Glaive and es3tag variety of Astralis. Okay, this is right after Complexity here. They had the O2. This was with Bubsky. And then they bombed out. They lost that one 0-2. And then from here on out, starting with this 2-0 match versus FaZe, they brought in the Glaive es3tag combo and hit the ground running. Okay. Of these 12 series, they won 11. They lost once here versus Heroic. They're 11 for 12 with this roster. They are 11 for 12 in matches, and they won Pro League off of this as well. And in this game, they had literally 3 bottom fraggers. So go figure. It was just Magisk and his friends basically this game. But they came back, classic Astralis revenge match, beat Heroic right here in the consolidation final. Dupree played amazing all tournament. Also want to shout him out. And then they came through and they won this series 3-2 over NAVI, the reverse sweep. Unbelievable. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable that es3tag could go. He was their highest rated player at Pro League for most of these matches, I would say. Here we have a situation where of these 4 maps, we're going to look at train. Okay, this is why. Because number 1, we're talking about es3tag. And honestly, he was kind of buns on the rest of the maps. Didn't really do a whole lot, I'll be honest. But on train, holy moly, he went absolutely Super Saiyan. 30-8. This is with an OT, of course, plus 22. And it was playing the inner site. Now, the really cool part about playing small sites, it's a weird position, right? Because sometimes people leave their worst individuals at small sites. Sometimes it's a player who prefers to play small sites. Like a couple examples are like Stewie and Taco play a lot of small sites. But what happens is, let's say you put them in the small sites because they don't frag as hard. Let's say that's the reason. Because there's less action that goes to that site. Like no one wants to play BM or Rush, the big meme. Well, that B player ends up performing most of the clutches if most of the rounds end on A. So in some sense, they've got to be a combination of maybe not the strongest mechanical player, but the smartest individual who can actually put together the clutches. And clutches wins games. You know, Zipex will tell you that. So for and on train, I remember there's been so many events where I mean, Zipix was a 1v4 Virtus Pro for match point on Train from Inner. Like, there are so many rounds for Inner players, especially on Train, where they have to clutch outside. And clutching on the A side of Train is probably the hardest in the whole game. Like, even if you know where they are, it can be too hard to kill them because more often than not, and I don't want to get too specific about this, but more often than not, the player who has the T who has a bomb down, who gets spotted, has multiple routes to go and fight, like to save the bomb. And so you end up like in this awkward ring around the rosy around bomb trains. But Zipix can make it happen. And apparently es3tag can too. Now, a lot of the cool stuff we're going to see in this demo, and I'll talk about that as we go, has to do with some of the aggressive setups they used and just, you know, him fragging as well. He was kind of the full package here on Train. But I thought this was a really, really, well, everyone thought this was a really amazing half. That's not a controversial opinion in the slightest. So why don't we go ahead and take a look here. We're on 1280 by 960. Actually, let me go ahead and show you his res first. I don't know if you saw these settings. Pretty high sensitivity, 2.8 at 800. Most of the Strauss players are around like 2 or less, I want to say. So, yeah, up there. And the way he plays, like, you wouldn't be able to tell, honestly. So let's go ahead, look at Train and talk about the CT side because it was awesome. It was really awesome. But yeah, he said he watched a lot of demos to prepare for this map, specifically on playing Inner because he knew he was going to take over the position. And a big question for me is what happens when Zipix comes back? Because, you know, Zipix is probably going to take this spot. This is his spot. It might be his most iconic position, I would say. How the hell did es3tag go 30 and 8 with this crosshair? I mean, it's so big that you're always on him, so there's that. But it's like a crosshair looks like it was drawn with like a crayon or something. It's absolutely massive. But the question is, you know, where, like, if Zipix comes back, are they going to rotate in Bubsky and then take out es3tag after all the success that they've just had with es3tag just now, and he just gets announced the next day? Did Zipix see es3tag playing so well and go, I have to, the ultimate clutch, I have to stop Astralis from removing me from the team because es3tag is playing so well? I don't know. Okay. Nothing doing there. Electronic. He was, I feel bad for Electronic. He had the most, I think, ADR over the 4 maps of anybody in the server. He had a really great series, and he's coming off a big slump. We were talking about Electronic yesterday and kind of went in depth on one of his really, really good performances recently. And he showed extreme consistency at this final. You know, honestly, though, I would say he could have played even better. There was a lot of rounds where I'm like, small adjustment here, and he could have, like, actually superstar level carried the whole game like Simple can. But even despite that, he played well and had, like, a lot of impact. So the no-skin hacker deagle here for es3tag. And let's talk about your role here as the Inner player. Your role is to not freak out your teammates. It's to gather information. It's to play to not die more than it is to play to kill most of the time. Because if you keep it 5v5, retaking Inner is very easy. Like, it is objectively one of the easiest sites in the game. If you look at the bomb site itself, there's nowhere to stand. That's safe. It's easily nadeable. The only way that the T's win is when they get all the way to the back of the site and then they stop you from rotating. If they can stop you in this Z choke point that es3tag is falling back to, that's when it becomes more viable for them to win. So that's why it's huge if you can keep one alive and have him play the back lanes, like anything like that. Oh, the spam underneath the bomb site. Oh, that's pretty nice. Oh, that was actually a pretty big clutch by Dupree. But yeah, so I think in a lot of ways, like, you're basically not supposed to get caught out on fakes. You're oftentimes alone and can hear more than the rest of your team. So you have to be very careful with what you communicate, and also you can't watch both upper and lower easily at the same time. So it is important to know when to call for help or to have someone come watch your inner. But your outside guys can also make decisions about when to rotate in to help you themselves. It's just that you want to have 4 outside because there's Ivy, there's T-Con, there's ladder. There's just so many ways that a team can attack. So we'll see how es3tag plays now. Only first round where, well, he's got MP9. We heard some Tech 9s already. And we'll see, I think the aggressiveness starts to turn up as the half progresses. And we'll talk about some of the double ramp setups that we saw, which were awesome. Super cool. So in es3tag's preferred way of just spotting. I'm never a huge fan of kind of like switching between 2 angles. Just because of like that moment where you get timing, it feels like it amplifies the amount of times that happens to you. Well, you'll look lower ramp, they'll pop out upper. But it feels like sometimes it's your very best option and your safest, and allows you to play better spots. So for now, es3tag really wants to rotate, but as we talked about, he doesn't want to go outside and they come inner because he doesn't want to be rotating in with an MP9. So he's hoping his team can either stay alive, get kills, or find out that they're going back inner so he can chill. And he's probably asking right now, like, do I come out to help you? And at this point, like, I don't know, maybe he's going to think about saving, which wouldn't be a bad idea. So either, let's say they go inner, right? Dupree can flank and they can, oh, one's on the site. Oh, it's actually perfect. Yeah, not moving here denies the plant too. And that's it right there. Not freaking out. Oh, Navi still won. Okay, never mind. That was close. That was very close. And the only reason that even came so close is because es3tag didn't bite on the rotate and ended up going through Z2 early. And I think that even if they were low in information, I really like that it still becomes a better option to sit there, and Dupree can flank inner if they go inner, and es3tag actually has a chance to win if they go inner, and they can both save because Dupree's safe in ladder if they don't go inner. As opposed to just blowing like a, you know, like a palm tree in the wind and just following every single audible that comes outside. And then feeling like a fool when you're in a rotator spot with an MP9 and you weren't brave enough to just pick a spot and gamble. I think gambling is very, very important. I think Machine talked about this a bit, where it was like you can play the percentages every single time, but that won't give you the edge versus elite competition. And a couple of nice shots here. It's a 1v1. Actually, let's see how this plays out. Okay, perfect. So Magis played Old Bomb, and then Perfecto assumed that he was going to either stay there or go Ivy maybe, and then Magis called him out. So Magis gets a good retake spot there inside of Z, where if they go inner, that happens. If they go outside, he's still in a perfectly reasonable spot to retake. It's really not any better or worse than playing Ivy or Old Bomb. But now you also cover this rotate inner. And even if Perfecto goes ladder, for example, Magis is very close to the inner site. So it's kind of just a really smart rotate by him. And sometimes clutching is about, you know, being tricky, but it's also about, like, what's just a great spot to cover a lot of options. Okay, catches the drop off. So sometimes what dictates if you go ladder is simply your spawn. Teams that flash outside can catch you around E-box when you're running up to the ladder, and then you die. Like, there's not really, it's really hard to trade you. But now that Device has died inner, they need to rotate out. But you see, of course, es3tag's not the person to go inside just because Device died. Your closest person to the site, you know, most typically is going to be the one to move, who can just pick up the slack faster. And now we're probably going to see why ladder is really important. So Here, es3tag might be in the most important position on the team, because if they go inner, he has the opportunity to big flank quickly. If they go outer, he's actually safe and doesn't need help from his teammates, so they don't have to watch him. If they come ladder, he has a big advantage because he's already in ladder. And if they plant on the side of the bomb and don't know he's ladder, well, he gets a free kill. So I think there's a world here, as long as both of these teammates don't die. Okay, of course Glaive doesn't die. Where he's very useful. Okay. Another round into the ladder. 2 players inner and it's not him. And Dupree's kind of been escorted in. But not only that, he's shooting off the ladder with the MP9. There was a lot of MP9 abuse this series from Astralis. There was that jumping 2-man boost on overpass, if you guys saw, from Magisk. I think he killed Electronic on short B on overpass and jumping over the wall where you'd normally triple boost with an MP9. That was bootleg. Okay. Let's see how he crack spots. I actually am not a huge fan. I don't know if he did this, but the jiggle peek on the lower ramp that everybody does, I feel like you take 40, 50 damage a lot of the time spotting that. And if they cross early enough, you can die to an op. But even if you don't die, you don't get info that's relevant enough for the rest of the round. So sometimes you take the 40 damage, you drop a smoke at a minute 15, but they just don't rush inner. And then they can rush inner again at 30 seconds, and you're down 50 HP and a smoke. So I really see diminishing returns when it comes to that. But sometimes, of course, it's useful when a team is trying to incognito full hit inner right away. It's just hard to know for sure if that's the plan. Okay. So we're seeing what's interesting is, you know, es3tag inner player, but we're seeing him help out with outside really often. And he's being Mr. Right Place, Right Time. In a great spot. And we can see again, he's like in a position to fight against the execute as it happens at the choke point, as opposed to as a rotator. So es3tag just listening. Smoke goes down. And it's an eco, so the actual smokes are less useful. And to be honest, on eco rounds, smokes can fuck you up. You can use a smoke on an eco round, and a pistoling player can play around it, create cover where there wasn't cover before, walk through it where they wouldn't have walked through it with a rifle, and mess you up. So sometimes it is good just to play it super safe, get rid of your nades a little bit earlier on the eco rounds, and just stop rushes first and foremost. And then when it goes into the late round, you can really fall back on your guns a lot more easily. But on an eco, it's harder for teams to play longer rounds because they have less utility. You can't really work the map with just a few pistols and not take damage. So usually on an eco, you'll have either full silence or an early rush or an early, you know, half execute or whatever they can afford. But you don't really have defaults as much. Navi do sometimes because they buy a lot of deagles, but even then. And there's that deagle. I think Flamey definitely had the best deagle this series. Yeah. He was doing well. So this is the typical rotate. When you're coming to reclaim outside if you're inner. We talk about this a lot, but... Oh. That was beautiful. Man, es3tag spray control is fantastic. Oh, I clipped something on Twitter, was like, two players jumping at him while he's in construction on Beyond Inferno, and his target selection was just beautiful. Like there, I mean, the spray control was awesome. He just, like when you flick down, of course, your few bullets into the spray. That means you've got to start playing down to the left. This stuff you can practice. I actually recommend this map, QK_aim_training, for practicing spray transfers. I think if you practice on that map, it just puts bots in kind of weird positions. That will improve your spray transfers like tenfold. You'll be super comfortable. I honestly, part of me is not even that impressed with like spray transfers on still targets at this level. Like I don't think the spray transfer is any harder for them than a regular spray. Moving targets or like really late into a spray, it's one thing, but still, I think it's very noticeable with es3tag. Okay, so here's where he has to turn into the clutch god, and so he, as the inner player, they know he can come Z, he can come old bomb, he can come ladder, and this is the least likely place that you would come. But he wasn't he was already pushed. Okay, so he was already pushed to the top of ladder, which means he could have come down ladder fast and been there to watch. But he didn't have a team to distract while he came down the ladder. But he was far enough ahead already that he thinks, okay, I can maybe get to T-Con and catch a bit of a timing here. And this is good. And the farther away the rotation is, the least likely, of course, they're going to be watching it, this position, at least for a moment. If he took longer, Flamey would have almost certainly turned around. And es3tag pulls off the 1v2 just by making it a 1v1 for free. And then, of course, the other value is that he's now on this big flank in the best post-plant position as well, right? Like maybe the strongest post-plant position that you could be in right there is T-Con, one of them. So being able to clear that out and now playing from that spot is really difficult to fight against if you're a T. Perfecto could, of course, played it a million different ways, but I think, of course, he felt like confident taking the fight, whatever. He knew where es3tag was. He just didn't. So I want to assume that nothing aggressive has happened yet from Astralis, because they want to see that, like, the conditioning from the early nades like actually means something. And we want to see, I think we want to see Astralis, fail really hard before they start changing things up. And there hasn't been a huge problem on any of these rounds really, but especially when it comes down to that lower ramp. So sometimes I think, by the way Glaive calls, from my perspective, is very just pragmatic. Like, this is what works. This makes sense. This is conditioning. This is what they're probably going to do. There's not a real reason to change anything up right now when it comes to inner. There's no real reason to look for an adjustment. Oh, this is that double ramp setup. Okay, so this is where it starts coming into play. So, I mean, after this game, I don't know if they're the first person to use it this consistently. It's definitely like seen it before, but I don't know if they're the first person to use this first team to use it this consistently. But we know on like Inferno, they have a Astralis setup where they're in halls, and then one person holds left, one person holds right at the end of the halls for the staircase, and the player who comes out of the window room, and then they just sit there and they try to catch both players who try to trade. So the idea on this setup when they're sitting on the ramp, and I'll pause when we get there to another situation where they set up like that. I don't know if they'll do it, but I'll explain what the idea is, why it's kind of a fail-safe setup. So again, early smoke comes out, and an early kill here for Astralis, but es3tag, okay, bomb's on radar, so he's out. As long as they can, get control of it, and it's only one left. Super clean. Aim looks really good, of course. But I think a lot of the kills that es3tag have gotten, impressively, have been as team has come out of the choke point, and really not like insane flicks. He set himself up really well for some easy kills. Easy tag. Those nade lands right where you hold the box halls, set up for your own utility. And it's actually a 3 inner setup, probably. They're just assuming that a Navi really want to go back to this. Navi can be pretty stubborn about trying the same thing when it doesn't work. When it comes to their T-side execs. Which can be a good thing, especially if you maybe are reading into the situation like this. But there's still 2 inner. They had 3 for a second. I think a big thing is Astralis just weren't as worried about outside. They're like, they've been doing such a good job outside that they're just not concerned about it, at least trading out if it comes to it. All right. Okay. Okay, this is perfect. So this is the setup. We have, I think Dupree's here to his left, and es3tag is watching the left, and Dupree is watching our guy on the right now. So in this setup, you have a position where you have like a box house lurker on your left, and then you maybe have someone who, or maybe that guy's not there yet, and they're just starting to come to set up for B. So the first guy could be the guy on the right. They don't know who's here. That's why I'm saying that. es3tag's job is to catch the box house lurker if he comes in. I think when they set this up, what they're hoping is not to push that box house lurker right away, but that Navi are coming into inner to try to set up. And then Dupree gets a kill on this guy on the right, and then someone comes to trade, and he peeks too wide, and es3tag can trade him, or Dupree gets 2, or they get 2 or 3 kills, right? Or the guy on the right peeks first, Dupree gets that kill, and then the box house lurker on the left comes to trade and hears the bullets from Dupree, peeks too wide, and gets shot in the side of the head from es3tag. So I'm covering a lot of like kind of variety of options here, but I think that's the idea, that it's a bait setup, and it's kind of fail safe on the trade, even if you're coming from both sides. So specifically creating a crossfire here to catch both players off guard, hoping that one takes contact first. And it just works out so well. I mean, it's not going to work out that well all the time, of course. And it's kind of one of those house of cards setups, of course. If one person dies, then the other person might be in danger. But at the same time, there's a variation of like how they could be approached. That could mean you still go, 1 for 1 or 2 for 2. If Navi like full commit inner, which is not bad. But that stuff was just sick. Like, that's when Navi, you get in your own head. You're like, man, we didn't attack inner all these rounds, and now they're doing these aggressive setups. Like, now we have to go make sure they don't try that again. Plus, we can't win outside. And that's when it feels like the pressure is just mounting, and there's just too much to think about, and there's not enough time in the round. But Navi completely threw nuke. Like, on their T side, Boomich was just not calling. Boomich is just not calling, man. Like, when I watched that T side, I was like, they were winning 13-9, and I said, Navi could use a tempo adjustment. They're playing like they're losing. When they're winning 13-9, and then Astralis came back and won 16-14. And yeah, it was a really nice, 1v2 on match point for a device to win the game. But they should have had a better T side leading up to that point, and they would have won the whole series with nuke. I personally think that the calling was just absent from Navi, and it's incredibly frustrating to see a team with that much talent play so many slow rounds and give so much respect. You have literally Simple on your roster, and you're giving anybody so much respect. Like, at least in your defaults, they have to be using tactics to get map control, fight aggressively for things, bait grenades out, create late round opportunities. But the only thing that happened was Perfecto made a couple of plays. One round he got a 3K. That got him 1 round. One round they got lucky going ramp with 10 seconds left. Like, they were like old Navi in the worst way possible. Calling, it was just absent. It was absent. For those of you who remember, it was like the 1 round Perfecto, it was like frustration ensued, and I would assume, because Astralis were posing this comeback. Perfecto like jumps out ramp in the first second. es3tag was on the ramp. He throws a molly and drops instantly, but Perfecto's in the ramp. It's like a minute 40. Like, he's in the ramp already. Then he goes in, Simple comes. They camp out in ramp until there's like 20 seconds left or something, and then go downstairs. They did nothing with that push except for hope Astralis would make a giant mistake. And Astralis, I mean, es3tag dropped lower like he was supposed to. They covered the flank into hell, and they just waited. They forfeited all of that map control and waited, and Navi didn't do anything at all after that point. So they could have just executed and pushed into lower. They could have left one person there and executed outside and hoped the rotation would come back, but they literally just stood there and waited for Astralis to make some huge mistake, which wouldn't have happened. And for me, at that point, that was when I was like, a part of me didn't even hope Navi won, even though I think I came into the series like wanting this for Navi, if that sounds weird. Like, the way I saw it was Astralis did so much this, like, it's such an incredible storyline for Astralis to do this with es3tag. But it's like they would have been happy. I want to say they would have been happy. I know that they're all winners and all that bullshit, but they should have been proud of the fact that they got so far and did so much with es3tag in the first place. But I really want, this Navi lineup to succeed as well. So, all right. So playing up top. This angle is, you can look this way. Teammate can flash behind you upper. I don't know if they do that. And he can also just peek. I actually push. Just start the pre-fire knowing that Flamey is just going to commit to that. Love that, actually. And the default Molotov with a nice bank. Simple stuff. Controlling upper is huge. Like, if you have upper and they only send one person there, you don't feel safe. It's already so unsafe. Upper is the best post-plan position you have. If a CT is upper and he wins his duel, you have nothing. Like, you can't plant the bomb. They can throw nades from on top of you. They can never peek, but still live inside your head rent-free. It's like absolutely horrible. So it's really strong to play up there if you're a CT. My back still hurts, by the way. It's definitely like way better. I'm just getting used to just like standing up like all day now. I'm just babying it, just making sure it's good, because I'm going to have to get on a plane soon and I just don't want any problems. So I don't think I'm going to stream today. Yeah, I'm just going to take 100% care of it. I started doing the big 3 exercises. Thank you guys for the comments on that. McGill's big 3. Oh, a little awkward. All right, so I think we're looking for the 13-2 half. I can't remember if they get it or not. Looks like they might. And es3tag will just go for the big flank. 1 HP big flank. But it's an easy round there for Device. Okay. That was a banger. That was a banger. That was chock full of shit. That's one of the players. I know es3tag is just like one of those players where like every demo there's going to be a lot to look at. Super cerebral player. Really good aim today. Super happy for his success and how good he's become. And yeah. It'd be really cool if I could just, do this every day. I actually kind of prefer the standing setup, to be honest. But yeah, I've got to figure out some solution where I can record a bunch. I'm just so sad that I want to put one out every day, but then I don't get to like talk about news and stuff every day. But anyways, oh, and by the way, I made a joke about this early on. I also want to shout out Threat for his HLTV Confirmed podcast episode. That was one of the best episodes. That made me want to go so much more in depth into meta-analysis. And it's really sad, and it's really hard to, like, if I'm like, now I'm coaching an advanced team for fun and just sitting in and helping them with like their mood and attitude communication, and I let their IGL do the legwork with the strategies and the calling. Like, I feel like you have to trust your IGL if you're a coach, but I can help out with some of the other stuff, the attitude and whatever, team play, calling people out. And in coaching, it's crazy what an advantage it is, especially if you're sitting top mid or camera. I'm just kidding. But it's really crazy, how much you can help a team seeing all 5 perspectives, and also be one step removed emotionally from your teammates, because you call someone out when you're also playing, then they can call you out for a mistake and then it can become heated. But as a coach, you're not playing, so you can kind of more easily dish out criticism, which I think is great. And so I see like a huge value in the coaching. But what's cool is also just like hearing, like, being updated on the meta and stuff. If you're watching from home, it's really hard to get updated without content like this, or being able to hear pro players talk about IGLing, or listening to people who played before. I think that's big. And I really want to get, take this to the next level and get extremely in tune with the meta of like every single matchup, to be honest, and understand the nuances, because I think that's what's going to take content to the next level, at least my content. So I'm going to try to work on that, but got a lot on my plate right now and have a lot of casting coming up. So we'll see what I can do. Maybe with the TOs that I'm working with, we can do content that involves the players more and stuff in the next couple months. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Get a Patreon. I don't know if I'm going to turn ads back on for these videos because now they're starting to get a lot of views. I don't want everyone to be mad at me, of course, but I might just change the Patreon so that it's like I could do like a Patreon specifically for like demo reviews, for example, or I couldn't do a bunch every month, but I could do like, a tier for like 4 a month or something like that and do them paid. I've done a couple of demo reviews for free for a couple of the subs that have DM'd me on Twitter. I'm not using that as an offer. I think they offered to pay and I just, did them. But I think if there's more interest, like I could do that. And what else? Yeah, so I don't know. I might turn ads back on because like we had over 1 million minutes watched this month. Over 1 million minutes watched. I can't believe that. Like over 130,000 views, 1.2 million minutes watched. Crazy. And the viewership's just been going crazy. So yeah, thanks everybody. Appreciate the follower bell notification gang, subscriber gang, comment gang. Everybody, all of you, you're amazing. And yeah, let me know what you think about that. I don't know. I like thinking about turning ads back on. Maybe it's still too soon, but yeah, things are going pretty good. I could restructure the Patreon. I keep it the way it is, but right now it's like $15 on the Patreon. And if it actually becomes good money on the YouTube, I can just, instead of people even paying any money on the Patreon, just turn ads back on. I'll leave it up to you guys. Let me know what you think. Hopefully you even watch the end. I don't think many people do, but appreciate y'all. And see you tomorrow for another demo review. Let me know who you want to see. Peace out, y'all.